Have you ever witnessed a moment so pure, so unexpected, that it changed everything you thought you knew about humanity? What if I told you that sometimes the kindest hearts beat in the chests of those who have nothing? Today's story will shake you to your core and remind you why we must never judge people by their circumstances. The morning sun blazed over the chaotic streets of Victoria Island, Lagos, as luxury cars honked impatiently beside rickety Danfo buses. The air smelled of roasted plantains from street vendors and exhaust fumes from the endless traffic. Skyscrapers towered above open markets, where women balanced basins of tomatoes on their heads, their colorful ankara wraps bright against the gray concrete. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of unexpected kindness, and comment below where you're watching from. Now, let's see how one moment changed everything. Beside the gleaming Echo Hotel, where foreign tourists sipped expensive cocktails, a different world existed. There, in the shadow of wealth, 17-year-old Zainab knelt on the hot pavement, her faded yellow dress torn at the hem, her hijab dusty from sleeping under the bridge. Her stomach growled as she watched a young boy in an expensive wheelchair struggling to reach a bottle of water that had fallen from his lap. The boy couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His legs lay motionless beneath a designer blanket, his small hands gripping the wheelchair arms as he tried desperately to bend forward. Tears of frustration streamed down his dark cheeks. "Please," he whispered to the passing crowd. "Someone help me." Businessmen in sharp suits walked past, their eyes on their phones. Women in high heels hurried by, clutching designer handbags. A security guard stood nearby, arms folded, watching but not moving. Nobody stopped. Nobody cared. Zainab had been homeless for 3 months, ever since her uncle threw her out after her parents died in a car accident. She owned nothing but the clothes on her back and a small photograph of her mother tucked in her dress pocket. Every day was a battle for survival, begging for scraps, dodging dangerous men in dark alleys, sleeping with one eye open. But when she saw that little boy crying, something inside her chest tightened. She stood up, ignoring the dizziness from hunger, and walked over to him. Her bare feet were calloused and dirty, her hands rough from sleeping on concrete. She picked up the water bottle and handed it to him, then knelt down to wipe the tears from his face with the cleanest corner of her hijab. "Don't cry, small Oga," she said softly, in Yoruba-accented English. "You're a strong boy. I can see it in your eyes." The boy stared at her with wonder. You helped me, but you look like you need help yourself." Zainab smiled, revealing a missing tooth she'd lost in a fight with another homeless girl over a loaf of bread. "We all need help sometimes. What's your name?" "Tunde," he said quietly. "My driver was supposed to watch me, but he went inside to get something. He's been gone for 20 minutes. "Where's your mama and papa?" Tunde's face fell. "My mama died 2 years ago. My papa, he's always working. He's very rich and very busy. I got sick last year and my legs stopped working. Now he looks at me like I'm broken. Like I remind him of everything he lost." Zainab felt tears prick her own eyes. She understood loss. She understood being invisible. "You're not broken," she said firmly. "You hear me? You're perfect exactly as you are." For the next hour, Zainab stayed with Tunde. She told him funny stories about the market women who used to pinch her cheeks when she was little. She made him laugh by imitating the Danfo conductors shouting, "Oshodi, Oshodi, enter quick, quick!" She shared the only thing she had, hope wrapped in kindness. She didn't notice the tall man watching from across the street. Olumide Badmus stood frozen beside his black Range Rover, his expensive Agbada billowing in the breeze. He was one of the richest men in Lagos, owner of 3 hotels, 2 shipping companies, and more real estate than he could count. His net worth was discussed in Forbes Africa. Presidents called him for donations, but right now, none of that mattered. He was watching a homeless girl show his son more love in 1 hour than he'd shown him in 2 years. Guilt crashed over Olumide like a wave. After his wife Folake died, he'd thrown himself into work, building empires to avoid facing his grief. When Tunde fell ill with a mysterious spinal condition that left him paralyzed, Olumide had hired the best doctors, bought the most expensive wheelchair, and provided everything money could buy. But he couldn't look his son in the eyes anymore. Every time he saw those motionless legs, he saw his failure as a father. He saw his beautiful Folake's disappointed face. So he'd hired drivers, nannies, and tutors. He gave Tunde everything except the one thing the boy desperately needed, his father's presence. Now, watching this homeless girl treat his son with such tender dignity, Olumide felt his carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. His driver, Emmanuel, finally emerged from the hotel carrying a package. The moment Emmanuel reached for the wheelchair handle, Zainab stood up and stepped back, lowering her eyes respectfully. "I was just helping small Olga," she said quickly. "I didn't steal anything, I swear." Emmanuel's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Move away from the boy. You street people are always looking for what to thief." "She didn't steal anything," Tunde protested. "She was kind to me. She's my friend." "Your father doesn't pay me to let street rats befriend you," Emmanuel sneered. He grabbed the wheelchair and began pushing Tunde toward the Range Rover. Tunde twisted in his seat, reaching back toward Zainab. "Wait! I didn't even thank her properly. Papa, please!" That's when Olumide stepped forward. The street seemed to hold its breath. Everyone recognized him. The billionaire, the philanthropist, the man whose face was on billboards across the city. But nobody had ever seen him look like this, with tears streaming down his proud face. "Stop!" Olumide commanded Emmanuel. He walked slowly toward Zainab, who backed away in fear. Rich men were dangerous to girls like her. They took what they wanted and discarded what they didn't need. But Olumide did something unexpected. He knelt down on the dirty pavement, ruining his expensive agbada, and looked into Zainab's frightened eyes. "What's your name?" "Daughter," he asked gently. "See Zainab, sir," she stammered. "Zainab," he repeated, his voice breaking. "You gave my son something I haven't given him in 2 years. You saw him as a whole person, not a broken thing. You showed him kindness when you have nothing. How can I ever repay such a gift?" The crowd that had ignored Tunde's tears earlier now gathered to watch, phones out, recording everything. Zainab shook her head. "I don't want payment, sir. I know what it's like to feel invisible. Nobody should feel that way." Olumide stood up, and what he said next shocked everyone within earshot. "Then let me give you what nobody gave you. A home, a family, a chance." He turned to Emmanuel. "Take my son home. I'll follow shortly." Then back to Zainab. "Will you come with me? I promise you. Your life is about to change in ways you cannot imagine." Zainab's heart pounded. She'd heard stories of girls who trusted rich men and disappeared. But something in this man's eyes looked genuine, looked broken in the same way she was broken. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help someone like me?" Olumide smiled through his tears. "Because you helped someone like him, and because I've been a rich fool for too long. Today, a homeless girl taught me what it means to be human. The least I can do is return the favor. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think Olumide's true intentions are? Is this kindness real, or is there something else going on? Comment below with your thoughts. The ride to Olumide's mansion in Ikoyi felt like a dream Zainab was afraid to wake from. She sat in the back of the Range Rover, her dirty fingers gripping the leather seat, watching Lagos transform from chaotic markets to tree-lined streets where massive gates guarded palatial homes. Every pothole disappeared, replaced by smooth roads that seemed to exist in a different country altogether. Olumide sat beside her, silent but watchful. He'd insisted she sit in the back with him rather than up front with Emmanuel, whose disapproving glances kept flickering in the rearview mirror. "Sir?" Emmanuel finally spoke, his voice tight with concern. "With respect, we don't know this girl. She could be a thief or worse. You know how these street children operate." "Emmanuel," Olumide interrupted quietly. "When was the last time you spent an hour with my son? When did you last make him laugh?" Emmanuel's mouth snapped shut. "That's what I thought," Olumide continued. "This girl did in 1 hour what none of us have done in months. She reminded Tunde that he matters. So unless you have something helpful to say, drive." Zainab's eyes widened. She'd never heard anyone defend her before, not since her parents died. They pulled through towering gates into a compound that made Zainab's breath catch. The mansion stood 3 stories high, painted pristine white with massive windows that sparkled in the afternoon sun. A fountain danced in the circular driveway. Gardens stretched in every direction, bursting with flowers she couldn't name. It looked like the palaces she'd seen in old Nollywood movies her mother used to watch. "This is where you live," she whispered. Olumide nodded, but his face held no pride. "Yes, a beautiful prison where my son feels more alone than you probably did on those streets." Before Zainab could respond, the front door burst open and Tunde wheeled himself onto the veranda, his face lit up with joy. "Papa, you brought her! You actually brought her!" But behind Tunde, a woman emerged who looked significantly less pleased. She was about 40, wearing an expensive purple lace iro and buba, her gel tied elaborately on her head. Gold dripped from her neck, wrists, and ears. Her face was beautiful but hard, her eyes calculating as they swept over Zainab's filthy appearance. "Olumide," the woman said sharply, "what is the meaning of this? Who is this dirty child and why is she in our home?" "Our home?" Olumide's voice turned cold. "Sister Morenikeji, this is my home. You live here at my invitation because you claimed you wanted to help raise Tunde after Folake died, but I notice my son spends more time with tutors and drivers than with you." Morenikeji's lips thinned. "I have been trying to teach that boy discipline and strength. He needs to stop crying about his condition and accept reality, but you're too soft on him. Always have been." "Enough," Olumide said, his voice hard as steel. "Zainab will be staying here. She will be treated as family. Is that understood?" Morenikeji's face twisted with barely concealed rage, but she forced a smile. "Of course, brother. Whatever you wish." Her eyes slid to Zainab, and the hatred there made Zainab's stomach clench with fear. A kind-faced older woman in a simple dress emerged from inside, wiping her hands on an apron. "Oga Olumide, welcome home. Should I prepare the blue guest room?" "No, Mama Ngozi," Olumide said. "Prepare the room next to Tunde's. Zainab will need clothes, toiletries, everything. And please draw her a bath. Make her comfortable." Mama Ngozi's warm smile reached her eyes. "Yes, sir. Come, my dear. Let's get you cleaned up. You look like you need a good meal, too." As Mama Ngozi led Zainab inside, the girl couldn't stop staring. Marble floors stretched before her. A massive chandelier hung from the ceiling, each crystal catching the light. Paintings in gold frames lined the walls. Everything smelled of expensive perfume and fresh flowers. "Is this real?" Zainab whispered. Mama Ngozi chuckled. "Very real, child. Though I'll warn you, money doesn't make people happy. I've worked here for 15 years. I saw this house filled with love when Madame Folake was alive. Now it's just a beautiful shell with broken people inside." She led Zainab upstairs to a bedroom bigger than any space Zainab had ever lived in. The bed alone could fit 5 people. The bathroom had a tub, a shower, and more towels than Zainab had seen in her life. "Take your time," Mama Ngozi said gently. "I'll bring you clothes and food. If you need anything, just call." When the door closed, Zainab finally let herself cry. She cried for her parents. She cried for the 3 months of terror on the streets. She cried because she didn't know if this was kindness or a trap, salvation or a new kind of prison. But the hot water felt like heaven. And the clothes Mama Ngozi brought, a simple blue dress and new underwear, fit perfectly. And the food, jollof rice, fried plantains, and grilled chicken, tasted like a memory of home. Later that evening, Olumide knocked on her door. "May I come in?" Zainab nodded, suddenly shy. She looked so different clean, her hair washed and braided by Mama Ngozi, her skin glowing. Olumide sat in the chair by the window and gestured for her to sit on the bed. "I need to be honest with you, Zainab," he began. "I didn't bring you here just out of kindness. I brought you here because watching you with Tunde showed me what a failure I've been as a father. My wife would be ashamed of the man I've become." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. A beautiful woman with kind eyes and Tunde's smile looked back at her. This was Folake. She died of cancer 2 years ago. After she passed, I couldn't bear to be around Tunde because he looks just like her. Then when he got sick, when his legs stopped working, I felt like I was losing her all over again. So I ran. I hid in my businesses and let strangers raise my son. Tears rolled down his cheeks. But you, with nothing, gave him everything. You saw him. You made him feel valued. I want you to teach me how to do that. I want you to help me become the father Tunde deserves." Zainab's voice was small. "I don't understand, sir. How can I teach you anything? I'm nobody." "You're somebody who understands pain but chose kindness anyway," Olumide said. "That makes you wiser than most adults I know. Will you help me? Will you help us become a family again?" Before Zainab could answer, a crash echoed from downstairs, followed by Tunde's scream. They both ran to the hallway. At the bottom of the stairs, Tunde's wheelchair lay on its side. The boy was on the floor crying, his legs twisted beneath him. And standing above him, her face a mask of cold satisfaction, was Morenikeji. "He fell," Morenikeji said coldly, her arms crossed over her chest. "I told him not to wheel himself near the stairs, but the boy never listens." "Liar!" Tunde sobbed from the floor, his small body trembling. "She pushed me. Papa, she pushed my wheelchair. She said I was a burden and that the street girl doesn't belong here." Olumide's face transformed into something Zainab had never seen before, pure rage barely contained beneath a mask of control. He descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate, his eyes never leaving his sister's face. "Emmanuel," he called out, "get the CCTV footage from the hallway camera, now!" Morenikeji's confident expression flickered for just a moment. "Brother, you would believe this crippled boy's lies over your own blood? I have sacrificed 2 years of my life to help you." "Sacrificed?" Olumide's voice was deadly quiet. "Is that what you call living rent-free in my mansion, driving my cars, wearing clothes I pay for, and eating food my money provides? You call that sacrifice?" Mama Ngozi rushed in with 2 male household staff. Together, they carefully lifted Tunde and his wheelchair, checking him for injuries. Zainab knelt beside the boy, holding his hand, whispering that he was brave, that he was safe now. Emmanuel returned with a tablet, his face grim. "Sir, you need to see this." Olumide took the tablet and pressed play. The footage was clear. Morenikeji had been standing at the top of the stairs when Tunde wheeled past. She'd looked around to ensure no one was watching, then deliberately pushed the wheelchair toward the staircase. Only Tunde's quick reflexes in grabbing the railing had prevented him from tumbling all the way down. The silence in that grand entrance hall was suffocating. "You tried to kill my son," Olumide said, his voice shaking. "My only child. Folek's precious boy. You tried to kill him." Morenikeji's mask finally cracked, her face twisted with years of buried resentment. "He's not even really your son. Everyone knows Folek had that affair with your business partner. Why do you think the boy looks nothing like you?" The slap echoed through the mansion. Olumide had never struck anyone in his life, but his hand moved before his brain could stop it. Morenikeji stumbled backward, her hand flying to her reddening cheek, shock and fury warring on her face. "How dare you?" Olumide whispered. "How dare you speak about my wife, my son, with your poisonous tongue? Tunde is mine in every way that matters. I was there when he was born. I cut his umbilical cord. I held him when he cried. And I have failed him every day since his mother died. But that ends tonight." He turned to Emmanuel. "Call my lawyers. I want a restraining order filed immediately. Then call security to escort my sister off this property. She has 1 hour to pack her personal belongings. Everything I bought for her stays here." Morenikeji's eyes went wild. "You're throwing me out? For what? For that cripple and that filthy street rat? They've poisoned your mind. In one day, that homeless witch has turned you against your own family." "No," Olumide said quietly. "You did that yourself the moment you laid hands on my child. Now get out of my sight before I have you arrested for attempted murder." Morenikeji opened her mouth to argue, but something in Olumide's eyes stopped her. She'd never seen him like this. Cold, decisive, unmovable. She'd always been able to manipulate him with guilt and family obligation, but that power had evaporated. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "Both of you. That street girl will rob you blind and disappear. That boy will end up in an institution where he belongs, and you'll die alone, just like you deserve." She stormed upstairs, her expensive heels clicking against the marble like gunshots. Olumide sank to the floor beside Tunde's wheelchair, pulling his son into his arms for the first time in months. The boy's thin body shook with sobs, and Olumide wept with him, years of grief and guilt pouring out. "I'm sorry," Olumide choked out. "I'm so sorry, my son. I should have protected you. I should have been here. Your mama would be so disappointed in me." "Mama would forgive you," Tunde whispered. "She always said people make mistakes, but love means trying again. Papa, will you try again? Will you stay this time?" "Yes," Olumide promised, pressing his forehead to his son's. "Yes, I will stay. I will be the father you deserve. I swear it on your mother's memory." Zainab watched them, tears streaming down her own face. She felt like an intruder in this private moment of healing, but when Tunde reached out his hand to her, she took it without hesitation. "You're part of this too," Tunde said. "You brought my papa back to me. You're my sister now, okay? My family." Zainab couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just nodded. Later that night, after Morenikaji had left in a fury and Tunde had finally fallen asleep, Olumide found Zainab standing on the balcony of her room, staring out at the glittering Lagos skyline. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. "I keep thinking I'll wake up back under the bridge," she admitted. "That this was all a dream. Good things don't happen to girls like me, sir. They just don't." Olumide stood beside her, following her gaze across the city. "3 months ago, you lost everything. Today, you saved my family. Tomorrow, I want to help you reclaim your life. Will you tell me what happened? How did you end up on the streets?" So Zainab told him about her parents' death in the car accident on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, about her uncle Yusuf, her father's younger brother, who'd taken her in but resented every mouthful of food she ate, about his wife who'd accused Zainab of stealing jewelry and thrown her out with nothing but her mother's photograph. "I tried to go back," Zainab whispered. "I begged them to let me stay, promised I'd work harder, eat less, be invisible. But Uncle Yusuf said I was cursed, that death followed me. He said my parents died because God was punishing our family, and I was the proof." Olumide's jaw clenched. "What's your uncle's full name?" "Yusuf Ibrahim. He lives in Surulere, owns a mechanic shop on Adeniran Ogunsanya Street. Why?" "Because tomorrow we're going to visit him," Olumide said, his voice like iron. "And he's going to learn what it means to throw away family." Do you think Olumide should confront Zainab's uncle? What would you do in his position? Comment below and hit that subscribe button. Next chapter is going to blow your mind. Don't miss what happens when a billionaire demands justice. The mechanic shop in Surulere looked exactly as Zainab remembered, a cramped space filled with car parts, oil stains on the concrete floor, and the constant sound of metal against metal. But arriving in Olumide's Range Rover, with the billionaire himself beside her, made everything feel different. She wasn't the desperate, discarded girl anymore. She was someone who mattered. Yusuf Ibrahim emerged from beneath a Toyota Camry, wiping his greasy hands on an already filthy rag. He was a short, thick man with a permanent scowl and calculating eyes. Those eyes widened with shock when he recognized Zainab, then narrowed with greed when he saw the expensive vehicle. "Zainab?" he said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "My dear niece, we've been so worried about you." "Where have you been? We searched everywhere." "Liar," Zainab said quietly, surprised by her own courage. "You told me never to come back. You called me cursed." Yusuf's face flushed, but he forced a laugh. "You misunderstood, my child. We were just upset that day. You know how emotions run high. But your family. Come, let me call your auntie. She'll be so happy to see you." "Save your breath," Olumide said, stepping forward. His presence commanded immediate attention. Even without knowing who he was, people could sense power. "I'm Olumide Badmus. This young woman has been living on the streets for 3 months because you threw her out like garbage. Now I want to understand something. How does a man abandon his dead brother's child?" Yusuf's eyes flickered with recognition at the name. Everyone in Lagos knew Olumide Badmus. His face went from greedy to cautious to calculating in seconds. "Oga, there's been a misunderstanding," Yusuf said, his tone shifting to obsequious respect. "We wanted to keep her truly, but my wife, you know how women can be. And the girl was troubled, always causing problems, stealing." "I never stole anything," Zainab's voice cracked. "Your wife lost her bracelet and blamed me without proof. She didn't even look for it. She just wanted me gone." "Is this true?" Olumide's voice was dangerously quiet. Yusuf licked his lips nervously. "Olga, please, let's talk like reasonable men. I'm sure we can work something out. If you're interested in the girl, I can arrange—" The disgust on Olumide's face stopped him mid-sentence. "Arrange?" Olumide repeated, his voice cold as ice. "You think I came here to buy a child from you? What kind of man are you?" "No, no," Yusuf backpedaled frantically. "I didn't mean it like that. I just thought, if you want to adopt her or something, we should discuss compensation. After all, I fed her, housed her, cared for her after my brother died. Surely that's worth something." "You fed her scraps and gave her a mat on the floor," Zainab said, her voice stronger now. "You made me work in the shop from dawn until midnight. You never let me go to school. You never treated me like family. You treated me like a slave." A woman's voice called from the doorway of the small house attached to the shop. "Yusuf? Who are you talking to?" Yusuf's wife, Halima, appeared. She was a heavy-set woman wearing an expensive Ankara dress that seemed out of place in their modest surroundings. When she saw Zainab, her face twisted with hatred. "You!" Halima spat. "You have the nerve to come back here after you stole from us and ran away? Yusuf, call the police! This thief—" "Enough!" Olumide's voice cracked like thunder. "I've heard enough lies for one day. Here's what's going to happen. Zainab is now under my legal guardianship. I will be filing paperwork to make it official. You will never contact her, approach her, or speak her name again. Is that understood?" "But she's my brother's child," Yusuf protested. "I have rights. You can't just take her." Olumide pulled out his phone and made a call. "Barrister Okonkwo?" "Yes, it's Olumide. I need you to prepare guardianship papers for a minor named Zainab Ibrahim. Parents deceased, currently under the care of her uncle Yusuf Ibrahim in Surulere." He paused, listening. "Yes, I'm with them now. Also, I want you to investigate this man's business. Tax records, labor practices, everything. I suspect he's been using underage workers and avoiding proper documentation." Yusuf's face went pale. Wait. Olga, there's no need for all that. Take the girl, she's yours. I don't want any trouble." "Too late," Olumide said coldly. "You threw away a child who just lost her parents. You exploited her labor. You called her cursed and sent her into the streets where anything could have happened to her. And now you want to negotiate? Now you want to avoid consequences?" Halima grabbed her husband's arm. "Yusuf, do something! He'll destroy us." "He already destroyed himself," Olumide said. "Zainab, do you have anything you want to say to these people?" Zainab stood there looking at the uncle and aunt who'd made her life miserable. 3 months ago, she would have begged for their forgiveness, pleaded for another chance. But standing beside Olumide, she felt something new. Worth. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "Not because you deserve it, but because carrying hatred is too heavy. You told me I was cursed, that my parents' death was God's punishment. But you were wrong. My parents were good people who loved me. They taught me kindness, compassion, and faith. You taught me what not to become." She turned to Olumide. "I'm ready to go home now." As they walked back to the Range Rover, Yusuf called out desperately, "The bracelet! We found it! It was behind the dresser all along. Halima was wrong about you stealing." Zainab didn't even turn around. On the drive back to Ikoyi, Olumide glanced at her. "How do you feel?" "Free," Zainab said, and meant it. "For the first time in 3 months, I feel free." "Good, because tomorrow we're enrolling you in school. Tunde's tutors will help catch you up on what you've missed. You'll have everything you need to build the future you deserve." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing all this? I'm nobody special." Olumide smiled sadly. "My wife used to say that we're all special to someone. Tunde thinks you're special. I think you're special. And most importantly, you need to believe you're special. Can you do that?" Before Zainab could answer, Olumide's phone rang. He answered, his face darkening as he listened. "When?" he asked sharply. "How bad?" A pause. "I'm on my way." He turned to Emmanuel. "Reddington Hospital now. Drive fast." "What happened?" Zainab asked, her heart pounding. Olumide's voice shook. "It's Tunde. Mama Ngozi said he's having trouble breathing. His condition, sometimes it affects his lungs. We need to get there now." The hospital's fluorescent lights felt harsh and clinical as Olumide burst through the emergency room doors, Zainab running behind him. Nurses pointed them toward the pediatric intensive care unit on the 3rd floor. Every second in that elevator felt like an eternity. Mama Ngozi sat in the waiting area, her face streaked with tears. "Olga, thank God you're here. The doctors are with him now. He couldn't breathe properly. His chest was making terrible sounds." A young doctor in blue scrubs emerged from Tunde's room, pulling off his stethoscope. "Mr. Badmus? I'm Dr. Okafor. Your son is stable now, but we need to talk." They moved to a private consultation room. Zainab wanted to give them privacy, but Olumide grabbed her hand and pulled her along. "She stays," he said firmly. "She's family." Dr. Okafor pulled up x-rays on a light board. "Mr. Badmus, Tunde's condition isn't just paralysis. The spinal inflammation is progressive. It's affecting his respiratory muscles now. Without intervention, his lungs will continue to weaken." "What kind of intervention?" Olumide demanded. "I'll pay anything. Any treatment, anywhere in the world." "There's an experimental procedure being done in South Africa," Dr. Okafor said carefully. "Stem cell therapy combined with spinal decompression. It's had remarkable success rates with cases like Tunde's. Some patients have regained partial mobility. Almost all have seen respiratory improvement. Then we do it, tomorrow, today, whenever possible." Dr. Okafor hesitated. "It's not that simple. The procedure is expensive, about 20 million naira. But more importantly, it requires the patient to be emotionally and psychologically strong. The recovery is grueling. Months of painful physical therapy. Many children give up halfway through." "Tunde won't give up," Zainab said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "He's the strongest person I know. He's been paralyzed for over a year, lost his mother, and felt abandoned by his father. Sorry, sir, but he still smiles. He still has hope. He won't give up." Olumide squeezed her hand gratefully. "When can we start?" "I'll make calls tonight," Dr. Okafor said. "But Mr. Badmus, you need to prepare yourself. Even with the procedure, Tunde may never walk again. We're fighting for quality of life and time, not necessarily a complete cure." "I understand," Olumide said. "Can we see him now?" Tunde looked so small in that hospital bed, oxygen tubes in his nose, monitors beeping around him. But when he saw his father and Zainab, his face lit up. "Papa, Sister Zainab, I'm okay, don't cry. The doctor said I just had a little trouble breathing, but I'm fine now." Olumide sat on the edge of the bed, stroking his son's hair. "I know you're fine. You're my strong boy. But I need to ask you something important. How would you feel about going to South Africa for a special treatment? It might help you breathe better and maybe even help your legs." Tunde's eyes widened. "Really? I could walk again?" "Maybe," Olumide said honestly. "But even if you can't, the treatment will help you feel better. It will be hard, though. Painful sometimes. Long recovery. Are you brave enough for that?" Tunde looked at Zainab. "Will you come with me? I'm brave when you're there." Zainab felt her heart swell. "Of course I'll come. We're family, remember? Family sticks together." "Then I'll do it," Tunde said. "I'll be brave for Mama. She always said I was her warrior. Time to prove it." The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Olumide hired the best medical team, arranged travel to Cape Town, and set up everything Tunde would need. But something else happened during those weeks, something beautiful. Olumide started being a father again. He had breakfast with Tunde every morning. He read him stories at night. He played chess with him, even though Tunde always won. He talked about Folake openly, sharing memories instead of hiding from them. And he included Zainab in everything, never making her feel like an outsider. Zainab enrolled in school for the first time in months. The tutors Olumide hired were patient and kind, helping her catch up. She was smart. Her teachers said she learned faster than most students her age. Every evening she'd tell Tunde what she learned, and they'd laugh together over math problems and history facts. Mama Ngozi watched it all with tears of joy. "This house is alive again," she told Zainab one afternoon. "You brought light back into this family." But not everyone was happy. Morenikeji had been calling Olumide constantly, leaving threatening voicemails. "You'll regret choosing that street rat over your real family," one message said. "Mark my words, she'll destroy you." Olumide had blocked her number, but he couldn't shake the unease. People like Morenikeji didn't give up easily. The night before they were scheduled to fly to Cape Town, Olumide gathered everyone in the living room, Tunde, Zainab, and Mama Ngozi. "I want to make something official," he said. "Zainab, I've filed adoption papers. If you agree, you'll legally become my daughter, Tunde's sister, part of this family permanently." Zainab couldn't speak. Tears poured down her face. "You don't have to decide now," Olumide continued gently. "But I want you to know—" "Yes," Zainab whispered. "Yes, please. I want to be part of this family." Tunde wheeled over and grabbed her hand. "Best sister ever." That night, Zainab stood on her balcony again, looking at the Lagos skyline. But this time she wasn't afraid it would disappear. This time, she knew she was home. Her phone buzzed, a cheap one Olumide had bought her. A text from an unknown number made her blood run cold. "Enjoy your fairy tale while it lasts, street rat. You took what's mine. I'll make you pay." M. Zainab's hands trembled. She should tell Olumide. She should show him the message. But tomorrow they were flying to South Africa for Tunde's treatment. The boy needed hope, not fear. She could handle Morenikeji's empty threats. She'd survived 3 months on the streets. She could survive anything. She deleted the message and went to bed. 3 months later they returned from South Africa. The procedure had been brutal. Tunde had cried through painful therapy sessions. There were setbacks and complications. But slowly, miraculously, things improved. His breathing strengthened. His core muscles began responding. And one incredible afternoon, with Olumide and Zainab holding his hands, Tunde stood on his own 2 feet for the first time in 18 months. He couldn't walk yet. That would take more months of therapy. But he could stand. He could feel his legs. He could hope. The day they returned to Lagos, a crowd waited at the airport. News of the billionaire who'd adopted a homeless girl and taken her to South Africa with his son had spread. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Olumide ignored them all. He pushed Tunde's wheelchair through the crowd, Zainab walking beside them, until they reached the car. "We did it," Tunde said, grinning. "We actually did it, Papa." "No, son," Olumide said, looking at both children with profound love. "God did it. He brought us a guardian angel disguised as a homeless girl, and she saved us all." 6 months later, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, Olumide threw a party in his mansion's garden. Not for business associates or politicians, but for the people who mattered. Mama Ngozi's family, Tunde's therapists, Zainab's teachers, and children from the homeless shelter Olumide had begun funding in honor of Zainab's survival. Tunde actually stood without support, and clinked a spoon against his glass. "I want to say something," the boy announced. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I couldn't walk, my papa was gone, and I felt invisible. Then God sent me a sister who saw me when nobody else did. She taught my papa how to be a papa again. She taught me that broken doesn't mean useless, and she proved that kindness is the most powerful thing in the world." He looked at Zainab, who was crying happy tears. "Thank you for helping a stranger. Thank you for becoming my family." "I love you, Sister Zainab." The crowd erupted in applause. Later, as the sun set over Lagos and the party wound down, Olumide found Zainab sitting alone under a mango tree. "Tired?" he asked. "Happy," she corrected. "I never thought I could feel this happy again." "You gave us everything when you had nothing," Olumide said. "You taught me that wealth isn't measured in naira or properties. It's measured in love, in presence, in showing up for the people who need you. You were richer than me the day we met, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to match your generosity." "You already have, Papa," Zainab said, using the word for the first time. "You gave me a home, a family, a future. How could I ever repay that?" "By being exactly who you are," Olumide said, pulling her into a hug. "By staying kind even when the world is cruel. By being the sister Tunde needs and the daughter I'm proud to claim. That's payment enough." As darkness fell over Lagos, the Badmus family, bound not by blood but by choice, not by obligation but by love, sat together under the stars, grateful for the moment when a billionaire saw a homeless girl helping his son and chose compassion over indifference. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. Sometimes the people we save end up saving us. And sometimes God uses the most unlikely people to teach us what truly matters. What an incredible journey! If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Tales by AJ. Comment below telling us which part made you cry and where you're watching from. We read every single comment. Remember, kindness costs nothing but means everything. Until next time, keep believing in miracles.